finally. Is it going to be too lazy just to put Syracuse number 7?
No.
Filling out the okay.
I mean,
Nope.
like, what's Syracuse known for? Like Dino Babers, like when they had their 10-win season, it was putting up points, a really prolific offense. Like last year, their offense was just awful. And there's a chance that it'll improve and things will improve, because you got to remember, like going into the year, they had players opting out, then they were dealing with injuries, and they were really a shell of a football team for most of the season. So it's hard to know how much of that was where the team stands or the circumstances it was in. So there is reason to be optimistic about it if you're hoping that it was just kind of the circumstances that they had to deal with and they didn't do a good job dealing with them. Now we're starting a new year, get spring practice, everything's going to be better. Maybe. But I just don't know what I saw last year from that team that could have me coming into 2021 feeling very optimistic about what's going to happen.
I talked to Stephen Bailey at Cuse Nation, and like he gave me a little bit of reason for hope, but also like raised some more questions I hadn't even thought of, which is not great because they're already the worst team in the league. So last year they did put in a brand new 3-3-5 defense, and they only had 3 days to do it in spring practice. And if you guys recall, like the first couple games, it actually kind of worked. Like it had UNC befuddled for probably about 3 quarters. Pitt had a little trouble with it. Georgia Tech had a little trouble with it. And then I think teams realized, wait a second, like, is this all they run? Because they only had very limited time to install their stuff. They didn't have any counter punches. So then teams were like, yeah, this is what Syracuse runs. That Duke team puts up 38. Liberty puts up 38. Clemson 47. Wake Forest 38. Notre Dame 45. NC State 36. Louisville 30. Basically, they didn't have anything else. They did discover Michael Jones, who's a stud at linebacker. And I feel like every nice thing I say about Syracuse, they have a negative. It's like Lee Pogba is still suspended, and we have no idea if he's going to be just like, off the team or not. They also lose Cisco and some other important dudes in the secondary, and their defense was the best side of the ball last year. So
they'll be better.
I think
they were young and tiny, and like at one point, remember we said they got the FCS line for Clemson because they were fielding an FCS team. They had like 60 scholarship players dressed out, and 30 of them were underclassmen. Like they were young and experienced and tiny. So
and they had to practice in a state which was one of the more stricter COVID protocols out there. They probably had less time on the field with their players than any other team in the ACC, and maybe fewer than anybody in the country.
That's a good point. So
O-line might be better. Like that's the one thing that's been really, really bad for them. And they do have some young guys they're fairly excited about who they think like this is the year they'll take a step. Running back, they get Adams and Howard both came back.
That's good.
So that's pretty loaded in the backfield.
And DeVito is back. He suffered that season-ending injury 3 or 4 weeks into the season. So, all the promise of Jim Tan Laundry in all of his glory, being able to get out there and ball.
And I think he beats out Schrader, by the way. So remember Garrett Schrader from Mississippi
State transfer.
Yeah, they brought him in. I think DeVito wins that.
I just want the dome to be electric.
That's all we want. We'll have the Dino drop on here again. I
hope it's not for the Dino's been fired up.
Yeah, I know. I feel it. I feel it in my bones. We can do it.